Hello, hello. Welcome back to Two Dumbbell Blondes. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Katie.
And before we get into today's episode, if you are watching us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and like. And if you're listening to us, just the audio version, go ahead and hit that follow button and give us that 5-star rating. We very much appreciate it. It helps us grow and reach more people. So today we have on a financial advisor. So we talk a lot about health and wellness here, and your financial health is just as important. So we have Ireen Sommer joining us today.
So Irene and I have a mutual friend, and when we started to reach out to find a financial advisor to have on the show, her name came up several times. Her and I have met. I'm super excited to have you on, Irene. I'm going to toss it over to you in one moment. But before I do, I just wanted to, Lindsay and I were having a conversation earlier, and we were talking about financial health and how there's a lot of parallels as it pertains to your health and your wellness. As trainers, Lindsay and I have people that are really scared to walk into the gym or to talk with someone who is a personal trainer or nutrition coach because it can be intimidating and scary. And you feel like they know so much more than you and they're going to potentially judge you. There are those same feelings as it comes to your financial health. I know for me, it has been something that I've been nervous and scared to talk to someone about because you just feel like you're a hot mess when it comes to your financial health. And so I'm really excited to have you on, Irene, and just to talk about some strategies that can help women and men, I mean, all of us, get our financial health in better order. So I'm going to kick it over to you and just go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a little background.
Absolutely. Good morning, ladies. As the lady said, my name is Ireen Sommer. I have been in the financial industry since 2008. So it was a wonderful time to get into the business,
Yes.
as we might remember. But I'm a managing partner with a firm locally, and I office out of Wayzata.
Great. So what caused you to get into the world of financial advising?
Good question. I knew that I always wanted to somehow make a difference in people's lives. And I couldn't quite figure out which way that was. I always had an interest in finance. And that had a lot to do with my grandparents. Quick story. I grew up on the eastern side of Germany, and my grandparents, they actually met in a concentration camp in Russia. So there was a different value system. And with as little as they had, but always trying to help folks out, that really had inspired me. So I was trying different things. And in 2008, I kept on driving by this one office that I always saw, advisor's office. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to step in and see what I can do. And sure enough, it all worked out to God's plan, and spent quite some time with them. And yeah,
So
I was able
did
to.
you get into it before or after? Like, did you get into it before the crash, before everything went to shit? Or was it after you were like, maybe I should do this? Because that was a crazy year.
Oh, it was a crazy year. So I got into it right when it was happening. So I thought that if I can make it then and I can help people then, darn it, I'll be able to continue that for the long run too. So
And what does
yeah,
that
it was
process
quite
look like
interesting.
to become a financial advisor? What does that process
Mhm.
look like?
Yep, good question. So you have to find a really good firm that will really put a lot of money into you. And I was very lucky that I was able to get with a firm that spends about 200,000 on you the first couple of years. So
Wow.
they put you through some rigorous training. You have to get your securities license, your securities law, insurance licenses, and so forth. So it's very time intensive. I always tell clients that are talking about, oh, I know a friend who wants to be a financial advisor. I said, well, you better tell them that, be very realistic. The first 5 to 7 years, you have no life and you're working 70, 80 hours a week. That's just how it is. So, but it's great.
Wow.
I
Wow.
love it.
So let's talk about financial health. Like how
Yes.
do you define financial health?
hmm So financial health is just like you guys were saying earlier, right? You guys being trainers, coaches, we all struggle, including myself, is trying to figure out how I can stay healthy physically, right? Because my work is very demanding and I don't always have enough time to make it a priority. So financial health is exactly the same, where we know most of the time we put money away in our employer sponsored plan, whatever it might be, but what can it really look like at the end? And what I find is that people do a good job putting monies away, but they really have no strategies in place. Or why did my neighbor's stock do so well while mine went down? Well, because everybody has different goals, objectives, and a comfort level as to what they can stomach for volatility. So I really do pride myself and my team to customize strategies, plans that really do fit your particular need, your goals, and let it be to accumulate wealth and build wealth or to maintain what we have and go ahead and be sure we can pass it on to different, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? To your children, different
Like
generations.
generations. Yeah,
Yep,
Mhm.
exactly.
Mhm.
Sorry, sometimes the German and the English is still in there, and then
that's okay.
I
so
space a little
so
bit, but
why do people not put financial health
mhm,
or make it a priority?
mhm. Good question. I think oftentimes what happens is that we're just so focused on raising a family, so focused on achieving certain things in our career that we always push it aside, right? So, for instance, I know I've been wanting to lose 7 pounds, but I push it aside unless one of my girlfriends says, okay, let's go. Or the friend that you and I have says, hey, come to my class. So
Yes.
it's the exact same thing. I think people are just so focused on a day to day and trying to survive, depending on different market conditions that we have been in. Right? We've had times where it was easier to focus on financial health, and then we've had times where, gosh, everything is so darn expensive. How am I going to afford this? And how am I going to go ahead and now save and become financially healthy? So I think oftentimes what ends up happening is that people are a little bit afraid to make that step. It's not a priority. And quite frankly, it can be intimidating.
So I know Katie and I were previously talking, like she mentioned, and every time I meet with my financial advisor, to her point, I kind of feel like, oh my gosh, there's all this lingo. I don't understand it. So
Hmm.
if we take things down to like, let's dumb it down, right? So I'm thinking of
Hmm.
Lindsay post college. She gets her job. We're just happy to pay the bills. Like we're not buying our own drinks. The boys are buying the drinks. Like, like you have like we're just making it, right? So, what
Yep.
would you say are like the top 1 to 3 things after that period
Hmm.
of your life that these are foundational things you should have set in place for sure, 100%? Like this is your starting point.
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that always has resonated with me was that you have to truly pay yourself first, no matter what. So as you're sitting down, you're a young family and you're going through your budget, you're building your budget, you do have to make sure, just like a bill, you built that in, whatever your saving is going to be. And once you start building that particular habit, you're going to do extremely well. So pay yourself first before
So
anything
what does
else.
that mean? Pay yourself first.
Yep. So that means depending again, there's all these different things that we have to take into consideration, but make sure you put so much money aside for your own longevity and your wealth that you're trying to create. So let it be that you're funding an account with me, let it be that you're funding a savings account for whatever it might be, but you got to pay yourself first with a certain amount. Just like how you're paying your AT&T bill, just like how you're paying your mortgage, that needs to happen automatically.
And that
Mm-hmm.
So
has to come before you pay your AT&T bill.
correct. That's right. Another great strategy that I just absolutely love, and these are clients of mine that I started working with in 2009. They had small kids back then, and it was very important for them to pay for their college education later on. So they were very good at whatever we paid for daycare is now what we're going to do and put aside every month into their college savings accounts. Well, that never changed, which was great. And so whatever expenses they had on the daycare side of it, they just continued it on. And it is absolutely incredible being
Wow.
disciplined like that. And the gift that these kids don't have to worry about paying for college and they have the freedom to choose and go where they like to a certain extent, right?
Sure.
So if you just create these healthy habits, so to speak, and especially getting our kids involved early on too, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
The other,
It,
Mhm.
what you talking about that and saying creating these healthy habits. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked so much about Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So
No.
Rome wasn't built in a day. And when you talk about changing your personal health and wellness,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't happen overnight. So we make little small steps that become habits that just
Mm-hmm.
become who we are. And
Mm-hmm.
with your financial health, I hear you saying the same thing. So starting small and those things compounding over
Mm-hmm.
time is what really um, makes the big difference
Mm-hmm.
on your
I
It really,
journey.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Lindsay, go
another thing
ahead.
she said, like there was a word in there that she said automatically, right? And I think that's the other thing when it comes to financial health is when we think about eating different, exercising, remove the friction, make it easy. And I think when you do stuff that's automatic, it's out of sight, out of mind. And the fact that like you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to make these decisions, it's already done for you. And then you come years later and look at it and you're like, dang, I'm really happy I made that decision that many years
Mm-hmm.
ago to make it easy to where it is today.
Yeah. What really does warm my heart, I work with a lot of I work with a lot of widows. I work with a lot of women that are divorced and they're having to rebuild. And it's really an honor to work beside them and walk this journey with them and take those responsibilities from them because oftentimes, they weren't necessarily involved with making sure that they understand what their investments are like, what the strategies are like. And I want to take ownership of that and make sure that with all the emotional things that they're going through, as tough as it is right now, don't even worry. And yes, it takes some time to start understanding these type of things, but it is so wonderful to see how over time people say, "Oh, I remember that, Irene. And this is what it is. And guess what? I told my neighbor I bought that stock and I told her, look at that. I just looked and they had a big sale going on over there. They released their earnings reports. All of a sudden they're speaking the lingo. And I was like, wow, look at you. I love it." So being able to educate and handhold and walk with them, I think is really empowering to them. So I think your listeners, some of the best advice I would have is just whatever your financial situation is, seek a good person that you feel comfortable with. Have coffee with them, meet them outside of the office, be in an environment that's very un, that's not intimidating, right? And ask these questions. There's no wrong question ever. And a person that truly cares about you will take that into consideration, not just treat you like a number, and will help you build whatever your goals and your dreams are financially.
When you talk about paying yourself, there's multiple ways to do
Mhm.
that, right? So we
Mhm.
think of you hit on within your company like a 401k plan, or you think of different investment opportunities. You've brought up stocks a couple times. There's like Roth IRAs. What are different ways
Mhm.
to pay yourself? What are those different
Mhm.
options? And like, why would you maybe choose one over the other?
Absolutely. So the very first thing that everybody should do is if you do have an employer sponsored plan and there is a match on it, put money into the match for sure, because that's free money and you would be leaving money on the table, which would be really foolish. Then depending on what your tax bracket is too, some employers have the opportunity to do a Roth 401k in there, traditional. Again, those are the type of things that you need to sit with your financial advisor to figure out what makes most sense and your CPA. But depending on if you want to do more, there's many different avenues. What you kept on saying Roth IRA before, Lindsay, right? That's an awesome vehicle that you do have to be careful with making sure that you're not making too much money. Otherwise, you're not eligible to invest into this. I shouldn't say too much money because trust me, we have other avenues we can get the exact same result. So don't worry. But
Other
oftentimes
options.
other options, there's never a shortage of options, people. So, but those are the type of things. Retirement accounts, regular investment accounts if you want, or the very first thing always is to take advantage of an employer sponsored plan if you have the opportunity to, because that's money that you're just leaving on the table if you're not doing it.
Mhm.
Right.
What about
And
stocks? Because you've brought those up a couple
mhm.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, good question. So stocks is just one wonderful tool that we can invest in, right? There is many different things. I always say it's like being a kid in a candy store because there's so many different investment options. So when you have a stock and you own a stock, which oftentimes you're not able to do in 401ks, oftentimes they're mutual funds. But a stock, you have ownership, right, in the company. So if you XYZ company, You have so many shares that you own, and hopefully they do pay a dividend, and then they, reward you in a form of a dividend, and they share their revenue with you. So, but yes, so stocks is when you have ownership in a company, but it's one investment vehicle under all of the different things that we can do and choose if it's appropriate for you.
Mm-hmm. And then different savings accounts. So I think growing up, you're
Yes.
like, your grandparents are like, oh, we're going to put that money into savings, right? And so you just know it's like this magical account that money is saved in. So aren't there different types though, like that kind of can pay you back a little bit more? Like how would you describe the differences with those?
Yeah. So savings accounts or cash equivalents are very, very low volatility, right? So oftentimes we know if it's FDIC insured, we know what we're going to get back. Now, we have been in an interest rate environment that for the longest was not very advantageous to do so. So just in the last, couple of years, year and a half, we started getting rewarded for that again because we had a rise in interest rates. And now we're going to have a slight adjustment coming again. But you can do anything from CDs, money markets, different savings accounts, short-term accounts that have very low volatility. I mean, there's many different opportunities out there to achieve exactly that. It's hard to pinpoint because it really does depend what it is that that person needs, and we need to customize that's in front of me. So I just know that there's all of that out there. The beautiful part is on our end, we are constantly monitoring the accounts. So when we see different opportunities arise, that's when we'll make contact and say, hey, listen, this might not be feasible anymore because of this and this reason, cut in interest rates, whatever it might be. But to continue achieving whatever your goal is for that portion of money.
So many options.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It could
And
become, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, she brought up low volatility a couple times. Will you explain what
Mhm.
that means to
Yeah.
someone that's listening? Yeah.
Good. So low volatility, how do I explain it? It's like driving down 94 at 40 miles an hour versus the guy in the truck next to your sports car at 90 miles an hour with the head out the window. So how much risk do you want to take? Do you like to get there on a steady basis, or would you like to be more on a roller coaster?
Got it.
And low,
So,
yeah.
oh, go
Mhm.
ahead.
No, I was just going to say low volatility. There are certain things we're not allowed to say in our
And that can
world, but
change, right?
it's
Like
it's
that
very
that's the
conservative.
importance of working with someone and finding that financial coach, because your
Hmm.
life is going to change and there are going to be times in your life where low volatility maybe feels better,
Hmm. Hmm.
or would be more recommended, and then there are times where it's like, okay, let's take a little bit of risks and see what we can make happen.
Exactly. And it's very interesting, especially when you look at the statistics for men and women. Women are a lot more cautious than men are. And usually, believe it or not, they have a really consistent outcome. But you can definitely go either way. I will tell you, when people have never invested before and they're just starting, they do enjoy being more conservative, right? That low volatility, that low risk, so to speak, and then become more brave. Okay, let's try this, just like Katie was saying. But our job, or my job, is to make sure that I pull you out of your comfort zone if necessary. And I always have to look at the worst case scenario, right? Because your financial well being is the primary objective. So I might say, okay, we need to do this because of what this outcome can be, or no, I know we really enjoyed ABC stock because it had a 30% return, but that's where 90% of your assets are now. And if there is volatility, you can lose that too. So we need to customize, is what I'm trying to say. We really do need to customize according to what your objectives are, and longevity. Because we got a plan for you for a long period of time into your 90s,
Is it
almost
is it
100.
ever too late? I'm 44. Is it too late for me?
No, hun. It is never too late, because depending on what your goals are. So let's say your goal is to achieve a successful independent retirement, right? Financially independent retirement. Retirement is not what it used to be anymore, you guys. Retirement back in the day was, hey, I'm done. I'm done working. I'm not doing anything anymore. I can't tell you how many clients I have that are truly like that. Hardly anybody. People are still volunteering. They're doing things. They're active with the kids. I mean, there's constantly things that people are still doing. and they have a hard time stepping away from the workforce because they do enjoy making that money. So long story short, it's never too late. We may have to have some hard conversations, but as long as we follow the guide, the plan, like much like you guys put your plan together for someone like me, we'll get to the results that we want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of hard because I think that, and this is me coming back again to that early 20s, you go through this mentality of the here and now, right? Like we're not guaranteed, because you're talking about longevity, we're not guaranteed to be
Mm-hmm.
60, 70, 80
Mm-hmm.
years old. So it's this balance of using what I have right now and enjoying my life
Mm-hmm.
and whatever that means financially versus taking that percentage of my income, paying myself, my future self. How do you
Mm-hmm.
navigate those conversations? Because that's even something that I think about now. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
want to go on that trip to Australia, right? Like, is this big chunk of change? Like, is that better utilized investing somewhere for when I am older, or do the dang thing now?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question, Lindsay, because I think it's important to find that healthy balance, right? Because you can't just completely take yourself away from what brings joy to you to hope that you're going to be around when you're 70, because nobody knows what the future will hold. But I do think it's really important to have a healthy balance and a healthy approach. And there's many different statistics that I will show you. We run many different numbers that says, okay, if you do this now, what could it be later? But don't forget to live your life now, right? So there has to be a balance. Don't go from one extreme to the other. Life always changes, like Katie was saying, right? One might get a promotion, one goes through a divorce, another one becomes a widow, the kids are off to college, whatever it might be. Life constantly changes. And we want to make sure that you can enjoy life while you're taking this journey. And I'm not talking about, especially when you first start working or you're coming out of college, $50 here, there on a monthly basis is huge, you guys. It's huge.
Yeah. So let's talk about investing in your health. And
Mm-hmm.
when someone is trying to save money, put money away, we hear a lot that joining a gym or eating
Mm-hmm.
healthy or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
may be is expensive. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you're talking to someone about where those dollars are going,
Mm-hmm.
how do you speak to investing in yourself and your health? And obviously you said you need to pay yourself first, but what about
Yep.
that? Paying for a gym membership or paying for
Sure.
a nutrition coach?
Yep. Absolutely. So I think we all need to be very honest with ourselves and say, okay, what is important to me, right? Like you guys were saying, what does my overall health picture look like? And it's not just financial health, right? It's also enjoying things, making sure that you build out your cardio, whatever it might be. So it is another portion of paying yourself first, because if you don't take care of your health, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else. And that's financially then too,
So you would
correct?
consider it an investment versus an
Correct.
expense.
Yep.
Yeah.
You invest in yourself. Now there's limits. It could be that one completely goes out of control because they sign up for every single commercial that they see and they end up with 20 different subscriptions to different
Yes.
things. So that we might have to have a conversation about. But I think it is very, very important to invest in your own health as well, because otherwise you're not going to be around to achieve your
Or
financial
to
health either.
enjoy the retirement, right?
Well,
Like you still want
right.
to be able-bodied and no, not tied
That's,
down to a chair somehow. Like you want to be able to enjoy that everything you saved
oh,
up for.
great point, Lindsay, because I can tell you, I have a lot of blue collar workers, and they they beat their body down so much, and they can't move anymore. And then it's really sad. It's very, very sad to see. So I think it's really important. I'm glad that we're starting to have more of that mindset of, okay, we've got to do something, right? To feel healthy, to move, because we got to keep going. I mean, I'm 43 now. I remember back in the day when I looked at my parents, I thought, and they were in their 40s, I thought, boy, they're old, right? But now I'm like, I'm not old, but how can I stay limber? How can I stay fit too? You're right. You want to be able to finally, when you get to that retirement age, what you work for so hard, enjoy it, run around, wrestle with the kids, go hiking, go climbing, whatever it is that you enjoy. But you can't just start when you're 60. You have to be able to do that And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but you got to be able to do that before.
You do.
Mhm.
So let's talk some strategies. So, if someone is not working with a financial advisor and maybe they're not
Mhm,
quite ready or
mhm.
for whatever reason to work with a financial advisor, what are some strategies that women or really anybody could do, or what are things that they can do right now by themselves to put them in a better position?
Yeah, good question. So first off, I would definitely recommend make sure you take advantage of your employer sponsor plan if you have. That's the very first thing. Make sure that you have an adequate amount of life insurance in place, especially if you have children. That oftentimes does require having a conversation with someone like me. But I would truly encourage anyone trying to figure out what it is that they can do, even if they feel it's not the time yet, sit down with someone like me, have a cup of coffee. I mean, you're not wasting your time. And if somebody is truly passionate about helping people, you're not wasting their time either. And if it's, maybe it's like, yeah, you do this for now. And then in a year and a half, we reconvene and then we can start implementing other strategies. Just reach out. I know it can be intimidating, but just reach out and somebody will help you.
We're talking about investing, and that conversation, that initiating that conversation is an investment. What does meeting with someone like yourself cost somebody?
Good question. I can't speak for everyone, but for me, that's how I like to run my business and how I build my business is my clients are not a number to me. I really want to know who they are and I care for them. And that's how I get to know the rest of the family. And it's just been so rewarding. But when somebody reaches out to me, most of the time it's going to be, okay, do you want to have a cup of coffee? Great. Let's sit down, have a cup of coffee. And there's no cost to that. Guess what? I'll even buy you the cup of coffee. So, because I just wanted to be non-intimidating, easy, because sometimes it is, making that very first step can be kind of frightening.
So then how does is it an out of pocket cost when you work with a financial advisor? Is it based off of the amount of money that you're investing? Because I do know that that
Hmm.
is sometimes you just don't you think that it's going to be so much more than it is, and
Hmm.
that's a barrier to getting into working with somebody.
Hmm. That's another good question. Now, everybody again runs their business a little bit differently. It really, and I sound like a broken record, but it really does depend as to what it is that we choose for you. The regulators that are out there to protect the clients are very good at watching over as to how we charge folks now. And oftentimes in the industry, things are done perhaps on a fee based, um, you know, basis where it comes out of the investments automatically. You don't have to write a check. I mean, there's so many different things that you can take a look at. As for my practice, we always discuss what things will cost and can cost to make sure that the client is comfortable with it.
So there are options in the sense of being able to pay up front or having it come out based off of what's investing. Because I think that that is,
Hmm.
um, like right now, you're thinking, I want to meet with someone, but I don't have 100, 1,000, ten
Hmm.
thousand dollars to pay upfront. So there
Yep.
are options that would allow someone to start working with people or someone and then have the money come out through investments. There's options, is what I'm trying to say.
There's lots of different options, exactly. But again, everybody runs their business a little bit differently.
Yeah,
But there's
I get
definitely
that.
different options.
I know that that is a hard question to ask or to answer. So I appreciate you doing your best with it. And it's just something that is out there and people thinking like, well, I can't afford that yet. I can't afford that
Hmm.
yet. I'm, new to the workforce or whatever it may be. And you're saying just do it anyways. There's options.
There's options, and it will never be for myself and my team. It will never be that we're going to do something that's not in line, right? That's why we have this role called Know Your Customer. And that's why we have to find out so much about you financially to make sure that the recommendations that we give are in line with what your overall net worth is, what you can afford, and what you're looking for.
I think it's like
Yeah.
when I meet with a new client, right? You have that consultation of what are they looking for and how can I help them? And it like, are they meeting with me 3 times a week? Are they meeting with me five and I'm doing nutrition and I'm doing groceries with them? Like, it kind of just depends on what is that person needing and how can you provide that? And there is varying payments that go with that because you are
Hmm.
dedicating more time and energy towards that individual or doing more work for them. So it makes sense that it would be more expensive.
Hmm. Absolutely. If I spend 20 hours every month, on someone's portfolio and plan, because I do a lot of planning, that's very different than somebody that has a very straightforward investment account and doesn't even want to talk about once a year, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
very, very different.
Yeah.
So I want to pivot a little bit. You brought up briefly about tax brackets. And it went off a little light bulb in my head. I remember reading or talking to somebody about a lot of your wealth is managing taxes. Basically, like how much are taxes affecting what you're actually getting to bring home or keep for yourself? So just high level, what does that mean? Like what should people be aware of when it comes to how taxes can affect what they're choosing to do?
Good question. So I'm not a CPA, so I can't go into that. However, I do partner with client CPAs in order to strategize, make sure that whatever changes we do have on the tax side, that the client does take advantage of it, the best things that we can do. So oftentimes, just a very high level, if you're investing in a regular 401k with not a Roth option, right? Whatever money you're putting in there now will reduce your income that you're getting taxed on at the end of the year, and you're deferring taxes on it. If you have a regular investment account, oftentimes you look at ordinary income or capital gains, or you can do, and the reason people like the Roth so much is because it's after tax dollars and then it's tax free later on to you. But again, there's so many different options out there that we really do have to take a look with your tax preparer to make sure we're making the right recommendations to your particular tax bracket, tax situation, whatever you might be in.
Okay. And coming back to your original comment of pay yourself first, if I'm looking at my total income, what's a good starting percentage to pay myself with of my total income?
Good question. So I love to see anywhere between 7 and 10% to pay yourself first. That sometimes is not achievable. Sometimes it's not. People can do a lot more than that. So I always tell clients, make sure that what is it that you can do without stressing yourself or feeling like you don't have enough money on a monthly basis? What is it that if you're buying a new car right now, what could you easily afford without buying a new car? Paying yourself first. So just have a really good heart to heart, because it is something that we want to make sure you can do on a consistent basis. Can you always change it? Yes, you can, but we want to make sure you get into that habit of being very consistent. And if it is something that's we're pushing the envelope too high right away, the success rate is not going to be as high as we want it to be. So just be very honest with yourself what it is that you can do.
Something is better than nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like you said, even $50 or $20 a week when you're starting out can make such a big impact down the road. So
Especially when it's going
Exactly.
into what you were talking about, the things that compound. Like it's crazy to see some of the graphs and the visuals of if you invest this much now, this is what it is in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years. And it's just like the compounding effect is crazy. And that also goes for our health, right? Like I started lifting when I was in college, and like some people are just starting, not to say it's too late, but like it does compound. Like there is that effect to it. Same thing with your finances.
Absolutely. It's quite breathtaking when you look at those charts. And I mean, those are numbers that are not made up, right? We all know
right.
there's different things that we go through economically in market environments, whatever it might be. But yet, if you stay consistent, you're painting yourself a very beautiful picture.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
love
other
that.
than meeting with someone like yourself, if I was someone that I'm still like trying to figure out if that's my next move, what are good like books or websites or even like social accounts that are great for education for this?
Good question, because I think there's a lot of information out there, but talking with someone live, that value is just, you can't replace that value that you're getting from, because when you're having a conversation, all of a sudden you're thinking of the next thing or that. Well, good luck searching for that or trying to, go through and try to find those answers in a book. It's usually just very black and white. So I think
She sounds like us, Linz, in the sense that I mean, that's why we started this podcast, because there's so much bullshit out there when it comes to health and fitness, right? And
Mhm.
that is one of the reasons why we were so passionate to start this podcast. And so while there may be some good information out there, to put the whole picture together, you really need to speak with someone who knows what they're doing, who is able to understand you, because we all have different goals and we all have different situations. And so we're not all starting from the same place. So,
Yep.
so talk to someone live. And if you think of anything, we'll put them in the show notes. So if there is a book that comes to mind, or if there is a social
Mhm.
account where you're like, this is actually a good just thing to follow, let us know,
Yeah.
because we can add it in the show notes. Because I think that, we're all looking for, we are in an age where information is at our fingertips. So
Mhm.
if there's anything like that, we would love to link those.
Absolutely. And on my website too, there is constantly new information that's being sent out. The fear that I have is when I give information out to a certain book or whatever it might be, is, well, clients are going to do that, but is it truly feasible for their situation? So
Right.
then, they do what they think their buddy did. Well, I can guarantee you it's not the same situation on so many
Mm-hmm.
levels. And now, or for instance, I had these wonderful clients and they're like, oh, Irene, you won't believe it. And we did these Roth IRA contributions and whatnot. Well, guess what? They made way too much money that the IRS doesn't allow them to do that. So now I got to back it out. Could have done something
Oh,
completely different. So it's just those type of things that you're taking on risk if you're trying to be a do-it-yourselfer.
very interesting. It's
Same thing with
good to
training.
know.
It
Yeah,
all comes back around to
absolutely.
that, right? Like
It
a little bit
Hmm.
does.
of guidance. So I have
Yep.
one more question then, and Katie, I don't know if you have any more, but what do you feel like is like the most common thing people get wrong when it comes to their finances or starting to
That's a
invest?
good question.
When they're first starting out, I
Yeah, like
think.
what do you feel like people get wrong? And I'm assuming it's not working with someone like you. Like they come to you and maybe they've said, "Hey, I tried this," and you're like, "Ooh, yeah, that's like a common theme here of like people going this route and it's not usually the best."
Mhm. So, honestly, where I've seen where people unfortunately make the wrong move is when they're trying to copy what their friends are doing. Or, hey, my family member who does XYZ work, which has nothing to do on the financial side. He told me this is what I should do because his friend of a friend told him to. Taking the wrong advice from the wrong people. It's great. And I love listening to my friends about different things, but we all have our areas of expertise. And you could have made choices that would have rewarded you. Or you have day traders, right? They're starting like, oh, I'm just gonna, invest in this or that. And it's just like, no, that is not a good idea for those reasons. So it's, yeah, I think that's oftentimes hearing recommendations from my neighbor, from my friend is, and now we can, there's so much you could have done already, but
Mhm.
because, it sounded so good. And if something sounds too good to be true, guys, it probably is. So
Yeah.
just,
Yes.
just know
So
that.
true. So true.
On,
Oh, well, is there anything else that we haven't touched on? I don't have any other questions. My mind is spinning. I took so many notes. Is there anything else that you want to touch on?
I think one other thing is talking about not just folks that are starting, but people that have had a career, that have had a family. Now they lose their loved one and they're all by themselves, or they're getting ready, to retire, whatever the case might be. And they have done a wonderful job putting monies into their 401ks and those type of things. But there's no other strategies implemented yet that could help protect and have that longevity for them. And so that's a mistake as well, where people think, okay, I'm just going to wait and do it on my own. And then it's sometimes too late to implement the strategies that we do need.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it's early on and later on.
And just start now, wherever you are.
And
Hmm.
starting out wherever you are. And especially when you do go through, big life changes, sometimes you do feel like you're starting out again. And know that, we're here to walk this with you and help you through it because there's enough you have to worry about already.
Yeah.
So I
So
know Katie
wonderful.
already mentioned we were going to put some links in the show notes, but if someone does want to learn more from you, get that
Mhm.
coffee from you, whatever it is,
Mhm.
how can they best reach you?
Yeah, so I will be sure to give you guys, well, you guys have my contact information. Um, Calls are usually routed through a text number on from my work to my cell phone. So it's very easy to get a hold of me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I am on LinkedIn.
Is it
Call
just
me,
your
All of
email
them.
name?
me.
Would they just
Mhm.
search your name then?
Well, it's Ireen Sommer
Mhm.
at ampf.com.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, I
Well, we'll
am,
link everything. And if anyone is looking to connect with you or um, uh, we'll link everything so that they can reach
yeah,
out to you.
I'll get that over to you. That way it's easy for folks to do.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
And if you're looking for us, you can find us at 2dumbbellblondes.com or on Instagram at 2dumbbellblondes. You guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you took some great notes away and you feel like you have a plan as it pertains to your financial health, or
And
one
thank
step closer at least.
and thank you, Irene. I'm sure we'll be having some people reach out. Until next time, guys.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.